Throughout history, empires have risen and fallen, leaving behind traces of their glory, and sometimes the enigmatic shadows of secrets they desperately tried to erase. Today, on History Owl, we journey into the heart of the world's greatest historical mysteries. Stories of forbidden knowledge, vanished cultures, and truths so dangerous that powerful rulers labored to bury them forever. These are the mysteries that defied the might of empires, outlived the fires of censorship, and continue to puzzle historians to this day. Prepare to travel from the sands of the Sahara to the palaces of Rome, from the jungles of Central America to the depths of the East Asian steppes, as we seek the secrets empires tried, and failed, to erase. Imagine a world where the past is not a settled story, but a battlefield of secrets and lies. For rulers, controlling history was often a matter of life and death. The right narrative could justify a conquest, cement a dynasty, or erase a rival from memory. But what happens when those efforts fall short? What fragments survive, and what mysteries remain? Let's begin in the heart of Egypt, under the shadow of the pyramids, where one of history's earliest acts of erasure played out. Most of us know the mighty pharaohs, Tutankhamun, Ramses the Great, Cleopatra. But how many have heard the name Hatshepsut? Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's few female pharaohs, ruled as king in her own right. Her reign was marked by peace, prosperity, and grand architectural achievements. Yet, after her death, her stepson Thutmose III launched a campaign to obliterate her legacy. Her statues were smashed, her images chiseled off temple walls, her name stricken from king lists. The intention was clear. Erase her from the annals of history, as if she had never worn the double crown of Egypt. For centuries, the plan seemed to work. Hatshepsut's name faded, but stone, as it turns out, has a memory. Archaeologists in the 19th and 20th centuries began to notice peculiar gaps, blank cartouches, defaced reliefs, architectural anomalies. Piece by piece, Hatshepsut's reign was reconstructed, her story told anew. Today, she stands as a testament to the futility of historical erasure. Her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari is now one of Egypt's most celebrated monuments, and her tale is a vivid reminder that even the mightiest empires cannot silence history forever. But Egypt is not alone in this. The practice of damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory, was refined in the Roman Empire. To the Romans, reputation and legacy were everything. When an emperor fell from grace, the Senate could declare him damned, ordering his statues destroyed, his name scratched from inscriptions, his coins melted down. The most infamous case is that of Emperor Nero, whose excesses and madness led to his downfall. After his death, statues were toppled, portraits destroyed, and his name scrubbed from public monuments. Yet, ironically, these efforts to erase Nero have made him one of the most notorious figures in Roman history. The gaps, the altered inscriptions, the missing names, they all serve as clues, drawing the attention of historians to the very people Rome wished to forget. Sometimes, the secrets are even older, and the stakes even higher. Beneath the shifting sands of the Sahara lies the memory of an entire civilization the world nearly forgot, the Garamantes. For centuries, the Garamantes were little more than a rumor, dismissed as desert raiders by Roman chroniclers. Yet, recent archaeological work has revealed a lost kingdom, flourishing in what is now Libya 2,000 years ago. They built sophisticated underground irrigation channels known as fogaras, allowing them to turn the desert green. Their capital, Garama, boasted stone buildings, tombs, and bustling markets. So why did the Garamantes vanish from history? The answer lies partly with their conquerors. The Romans, who eventually subdued the region, had little interest in preserving the legacy of rivals. The Garamantes' history was left to decay, their achievements ignored or misattributed. The desert itself conspired with human neglect to bury the evidence. Only in the 20th century did aerial photography, meant for military reconnaissance, reveal the ghostly outlines of their cities and irrigation works. The rediscovery of the Garamantes forces us to ask, how many other civilizations have been lost, not to the passage of time, but to the deliberate silence of empires? Let's journey now to the Americas, where the jungle guards its own secrets. The Maya civilization, famed for its pyramids, astronomy, and hieroglyphic writing, experienced a mysterious collapse around the 9th century CE. For centuries, Spanish conquerors and later colonists dismissed the Maya as primitive, their ruins merely the work of a vanished race. Colonial authorities, eager to impose their own narrative, suppressed native accounts and systematically destroyed Maya codices, folded books containing centuries of knowledge about astronomy, mathematics, and history. Of the hundreds of Maya books that once existed, only 4 survive today. The rest were burned by zealous priests or lost to the jungle. Yet, the Maya were not erased. Their descendants still live in Central America, speaking their ancestral languages and keeping ancient traditions alive. And in the last 100 years, historians and archaeologists have begun to decipher the Maya script, reconstructing lost dynasties, battles, and scientific achievements. The Maya case shows how the erasure of knowledge can be reversed, how the voices of the past can be recovered, not just from stone, but from living memory. Asia, too, holds its hidden histories. In the vast steppe lands of Central Asia, the Mongol Empire exploded onto the world stage in the 13th century, leaving a trail of conquest from China to Hungary. But the Mongols were not just warriors, they were also masters of information control. Genghis Khan, the Great Khan, cultivated an aura of invincibility, spreading stories of his own ruthlessness while concealing the details of his origins. The Mongols left few written records, preferring oral tradition. Later dynasties, both in China and the Middle East, found it convenient to demonize or trivialize the Mongol legacy, painting them as barbaric destroyers rather than sophisticated rulers. But archaeological discoveries and the study of the secret history of the Mongols, a rare written account smuggled through the centuries, reveal a more complex story. The Mongol Empire was a melting pot, connecting East and West through trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. The deliberate suppression of Mongol history cannot conceal the reality of their achievements: religious tolerance, a postal system spanning continents, and the fostering of science and the arts. The Mongols' true story, long hidden by the prejudices of their successors, is only now coming into focus. Sometimes, the secrets empires try to erase are not just about people, but about ideas, dangerous philosophies, forbidden sciences, or suppressed religions. Consider the Library of Alexandria, the greatest repository of knowledge in the ancient world. Its destruction, whether by fire, neglect, or deliberate attack, remains one of history's great unsolved mysteries. How many works of mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and history were lost? Did the rulers who presided over the city seek to control what knowledge survived? Some ancient sources suggest that successive conquerors, Romans, Christians, and Muslims alike, found the library's contents threatening, or simply irrelevant to their worldviews. While the details are debated, what is clear is this: the deliberate or careless loss of the library's treasures was an act of erasure whose effects still echo today. What insights into the ancient world died with those scrolls? What inventions or discoveries might have changed the course of history? The urge to erase inconvenient truths is not confined to the ancient world. In the modern era, entire peoples have been written out of national histories. Take the story of the Ainu people of Japan. For centuries, the Ainu, indigenous to Hokkaido and parts of Russia, were marginalized, their culture suppressed by the expanding Japanese state. Traditional practices were outlawed, language was forbidden in schools, and the Ainu were depicted as primitive or banished in official accounts. It was not until the late 20th century that the Japanese government formally recognized the Ainu as an indigenous people, and efforts began to reclaim their language and heritage. The Ainu's survival is a powerful reminder that history is not just something to be discovered, but something to be fought for. The erasure of history is not always total, and sometimes, the very attempt to destroy evidence ensures its survival. In medieval England, King Richard III became infamous as the villain of Shakespeare's play, a hunchbacked usurper who murdered his nephews, the princes in the Tower, to seize the throne. But is this the true story? After Richard's defeat and death at the Battle of Bosworth, the victorious Tudors had every reason to blacken his name. Chronicles were rewritten, portraits altered, and the bones of the princes never found. For centuries, Richard's reputation was shaped by Tudor propaganda. Yet, the recent discovery of his skeleton in a Leicester parking lot, and modern forensic analysis, has sparked a re-examination of his life. Was Richard truly a monster, or a victim of history written by the victors? The debate continues, fueled by the very gaps the Tudors tried to enforce. The story of erasure is not always about individuals or peoples. It can also center on the very origins of nations. In China, the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, is famous for unifying the country, building the Great Wall, and commissioning the Terracotta Army. But he was also a master of censorship. In 213 BCE, Qin ordered the burning of books and the burying alive of scholars, seeking to wipe out rival philosophies and ensure the dominance of his own legalist doctrine. Many works of Confucianism, Taoism, and other schools were lost forever. Yet, ironically, some texts survived, hidden in walls, copied by memory, or rediscovered centuries later. The Qin dynasty fell, but the ideas it tried to suppress flourished in the Han dynasty and beyond. The attempt to control history proved, once again, to be only temporary. In the Middle East, the city of Baghdad was, for centuries, a beacon of science, culture, and learning. In 1258, the Mongol siege of Baghdad led to the destruction of the House of Wisdom, the city's famed library. Countless manuscripts, on medicine, astronomy, philosophy, were thrown into the Tigris River, turning its waters black with ink, according to legend. The Mongols, often painted as destroyers, were not alone in targeting centers of learning. Throughout history, conquerors have understood that to erase a people's past is to control their future. Yet, the legacy of Baghdad's scholars survives in translations, in the works carried westward to Europe, and in the fragments pieced together by modern historians. Sometimes, the secrets that empires try to erase are not about events, but about entire landscapes. In Eastern Europe, the civilization of Old Europe, centered in what is now Romania and Bulgaria, flourished thousands of years before the rise of Greece or Rome. The people of Old Europe built complex towns, created exquisite ceramics, and worshipped a pantheon of powerful goddesses. But their story was almost lost, overshadowed by the Indo-European migrations that swept the region around 4000 BCE. Subsequent empires, from the Greeks to the Romans to the Byzantines, had little interest in preserving the memory of a culture so different from their own. Only in the 20th century did archaeological discoveries bring Old Europe back into the light, challenging our assumptions about the origins of civilization. Why do empires try to erase history? The motives are as old as power itself: to legitimize rule, to suppress dissent, to impose a new order on the world. Yet, the very effort to erase the past often ensures its survival. The gaps, the silences, the forbidden stories, they become irresistible puzzles for future generations. And sometimes, the act of erasure is incomplete because of the persistence of oral traditions. In West Africa, civilizations like Great Zimbabwe and the empires of Ghana and Mali left few written records. European colonizers, dismissive of African achievements, often described these kingdoms as myths or attributed their architecture to outsiders. But oral histories, passed down through generations, preserved the memory of rulers, cities, and achievements. Today, archaeologists and historians are working hand in hand with griots, traditional storytellers, to reconstruct the true history of these African empires. So, what can we learn from these stories of secrets and erasures? First, that history is not a fixed record, but a living, contested field. For every name that survives in textbooks, there are dozens more that were scratched out, burned, or forgotten, sometimes by accident, sometimes by design. Second, that the silence of history is often more telling than its words. The gaps, the absences, the mysteries, they point to the struggles, the fears, and the ambitions of those who came before us. Finally, these stories remind us that the quest for historical truth is never-ending. Every discovery, every deciphered text, every reconstructed building is a victory against the tide of oblivion. Empires may try to erase the past, but the past has a way of resurfacing, sometimes in ruins unearthed by archaeologists, sometimes in the stories whispered by descendants, sometimes in the very efforts to conceal it. So, the next time you visit a museum, read a history book, or walk among ancient ruins, remember this: every artifact, every inscription, every legend is a survivor. A fragment of a story that someone, somewhere, once tried to erase. And it is up to us, the inheritors of history, to listen, to question, and to keep those stories alive. If you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to subscribe to History Owl for more deep dives into our world's forgotten past. Share your favorite historical mystery in the comments below, and join us as we continue to uncover the secrets empires tried to erase. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive. The past is never truly gone, it's just waiting to be found.